Thank you, thank you. You know, President Trump has also, he has referred to himself as the chief law enforcement officer of this country. So do you believe that President Trump is honest?
He is the commander-in-chief of the United States of America, and not only is
Representative Sydney Kamlager-Dove asked Attorney General Pam Bondi a direct question, whether she believed Donald Trump is honest. Stay with this report to understand how one question turned into a broader confrontation about accountability.
The good gentleman yields back. We turn to the good lady from California, Congresswoman Kamlager-Dove.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Attorney General, for being here today. I want to talk with you about an issue on which there is broad bipartisan agreement: the importance of ensuring trust between the American public and those government officials who wield powerful law enforcement responsibilities. So, Attorney General, would you agree that it is important for law enforcement leaders to be honest?
of course, as well as members of Congress.
Thank you. And would you include yourself as a law enforcement leader?
Of course.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. You know, President Trump has also, he has referred to himself as the chief law enforcement officer of this country. So do you believe that President Trump is honest?
He is the commander-in-chief of the United States of America, and
not
not only is he keeping this country safe, he is keeping this world safe.
It's a simple question, which you didn't answer.
He is the commander-in-chief.
Last June, Minnesota lawmaker Melissa Hortman, her husband Mark, and their dog were brutally murdered in their home. And your USA's office in Minnesota investigated this crime and obtained a 6-count indictment of the murder suspect, stating that he had intent to kill, injure, harass, and intimidate Minnesota legislators. And I have the copy right here. I read through it. Yet a few weeks ago, President Trump suggested publicly that Minnesota Governor Tim Walz was behind these murders, posting on his Truth Social account a video raising this conspiracy theory. And it wasn't true. And you know it wasn't true, or else you would not have brought an indictment against the subject. Do you know what else Trump has said? He has said he has cut gas prices by 1,400%. False. That he won the 2020 election.
Actually, gas is down to $1.99 a gallon, thanks to
That
President
he didn't
Trump.
know Epstein.
Maybe $5 in
That
California.
It's my time, Mr. Chair. That he sent water to LA during the wildfires. False. That Governor Westmore of Maryland called him the greatest president of his lifetime. False. So many tales, too many to keep up. But I want to go back to what he said about Tim Walz. Do you agree that President Trump undermined public trust in law enforcement by suggesting that Governor Walz was involved in the Hortman murders?
I am not familiar with that statement.
Well, that is a disappointing response, and it is also why your office and Donald Trump have zero credibility, because I know, and you know, it was a right-wing extremist who murdered the Hortmans, and you and the president are being dishonest with the American people. Last fall, after the horrific shooting of Charlie Kirk, President Trump was asked if there were extremists on both the left and the right. And his exact words were, "I'll tell you something that's going to get me in trouble, but I couldn't care less. The radicals on the right oftentimes are radical because they don't want to see crime. The radicals on the left are the problem, and they're vicious, and they're horrible, and they're politically savvy." Do you agree with this statement? You're taking too long, Madam Attorney General. But you know the answer, because your own department has addressed the question. In 24, the DOJ's research arm issued a report on domestic terrorism, stating that the number of far-right attacks continues to outpace all other types of terrorism and domestic violence extremists. The DOJ published the report, and after the president made those comments, the DOJ took the report down. And I sent you a letter asking you a simple question. Why did the Justice Department remove the data that shows right-wing extremists have killed more innocent people than left right-wing extremists.
Did you refer to immigration enforcement as domestic terrorism?
You should answer my
answer's
question.
yes.
You're on my time, but you won't. And what I am asking you to do is put the report back. Restore the data. Stop scrubbing important data from your website. Stop taking down reports that you know the American people need to know about. There are violent, dangerous people out here with real threats, and the dishonesty from your agency comes from the covering up of these threats that could hurt American people and put our lives at rest. Do better. And with that, I yield back, Mr. Chair.
Gentlelady yields back.
The discussion began with a basic principle that most lawmakers publicly agree on, that public trust depends on honesty from leaders who hold powerful law enforcement authority. Kamlager-Dove first asked Bondi whether honesty is essential for law enforcement officials, a point Bondi agreed with. She then asked whether the same expectation applies to the president, who often describes himself as the nation's chief law enforcement authority. Bondi answered yes when asked if she believed Trump was honest, but the conversation quickly shifted when Kamlager-Dove raised a series of controversial public statements made by the president. One example involved a tragic case in Minnesota where state lawmaker Melissa Hortman and her husband were murdered. Federal prosecutors charged a suspect accused of targeting legislators, yet the president later circulated a social media post suggesting Minnesota Governor Tim Walz may have been connected to the crime. Kamlager-Dove argued that such statements risk undermining confidence in law enforcement investigations because they contradict official indictments issued by the Justice Department itself. The Congresswoman then broadened the conversation to domestic extremism. She cited a report from the Justice Department's research arm, which concluded that far-right extremist violence has historically accounted for a larger share of domestic terrorism incidents in the United States. According to her, that report later disappeared from the department's website, raising concerns about whether politically sensitive data was being removed. Bondi did not directly address the removal during the exchange, instead challenging some of the Congresswoman's framing. Moments like this reveal the deeper tension inside congressional oversight hearings. Lawmakers are not only questioning specific policies, they're also testing whether government institutions are presenting information consistently and transparently. For the public, the stakes go beyond partisan argument. Trust in the justice system depends on whether Americans believe investigations, data, and official statements are guided by facts rather than politics. If you want clear explanations of the moments that shape government accountability and public trust, follow and stay informed as we continue breaking down the most important hearings happening in Washington.